Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dominic Porte with Controls Group North America, CGNA, and we're really glad to have you this afternoon. If this is the first time that you've been on a CGNA webinar, a very, very special welcome. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy days to come and listen to what Sonicu has to present for us. To start with, we have three gentlemen on the line from Sonicu: Michael Deemer, Brian Mitchell, and Sam Galbraith. Before we get into the webinar, I'd like to go through a couple housekeeping items. Everybody is going to be in listen-only mode, so everybody is muted until the very end, which we will have a Q&A. The webinar will be recorded and will be on demand later, and we will send you a link for that on demand. Once again, the Q&A will be at the very end of this presentation, and there are handouts for this presentation. They're under handouts at the bottom right of your panel. There are links to the PDFs for the handouts. So without further ado, I'll let Sonicu get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Deemer with Sonicu talking. With me, I have Sam.
Good afternoon, Sam Galbraith, GGT Energy Solutions.
So what we're going to be going through with you today is how to put your arms around everything that's needed from a compliance standpoint for non-controls personnel, while at the same time having that same data fed into your building automation system and having that as a tool, that's something that you guys could go out and be a solution provider to your end clients that are out there in the market currently that are asking for this type of a solution.
And just to give everybody a quick overview of what we're going to be diving into, this is an example of a GISTEC solution for a laboratory we've recently done. The main object here is to you see the data from the building automation system highlighting all your VAVs, et cetera. And then in the left-hand side is the incubator room. That's data being fed from CloudLink into the building automation system. The objective here is to be able to visualize all of your BMS and your compliance data in one graphical user interface that doesn't require special access to the outside world.
Just as a quick overview, again, my name is Mike Deemer with Sonicu. I'm the National Channel Manager. I would be your point of contact if you would like to partner with Sonicu on getting this out into the market. And I've been here since 2008, so it's been a while. And so we have over 600 customers across the market in healthcare and health sciences. And so we're getting to that point where we want to work out partnerships in the market and work with those people that already have those relationships and work to support them rather than the end customer.
I'm Sam Galbraith. I'm the Vice President, Chief Engineer of GGT Energy Solutions. We have offices in Indiana as well as North Carolina, serving nationwide clients. Our focus is on building integration and energy management. Our typical customers are large-scale commercial as well as education, healthcare, as well as government.
So when you're looking at Sonicu, what is Sonicu? Sonicu is a cloud-based platform for regulatory compliance, asset protection, and scalability across the system and eliminating manual processes. So when you're looking at the regulatory compliance platforms that are out there, we like to play in the middle of this Venn diagram because we're going to give you all the reporting and everything needed for regulatory compliance to make Board of Pharmacy, CAP in the lab, as well as accreditation for your hospitals and healthcare, and other FDA regulated facilities, other things that are, where that's a hard requirement for them. We're also able to give the non-controls personnel access to an alarm handler, so that way they can be the first line of defense when an alarm goes off. It doesn't always have to fall onto the shoulders of the facilities personnel. And we also help our customers save time and money. So by eliminating those manual processes that are out there, you guys probably aren't shocked to know that there's still a lot of people out there writing down temperatures and things like that on clipboards. So we help completely eliminate that and automate that process for them. So the two big questions that we're trying to help answer here today, both of them are around cost. Things are not getting cheaper in this current environment. So how do you decrease the cost of compliance data collection? The Sonicu hardware system was designed to be almost retail facing. So you can deploy a system across a whole building in a day and have it up and running and see live data and have that feeding into a BAS. So your deployment time can be shortened dramatically. It's a very cost-effective solution. You're not having to hardwire things back to a local JACE and then program it in, the engineering time required to do that, the running the lines, etc. And we're giving a turnkey reporting for all stakeholders. This works across the system, thinking of healthcare specifically because there's so many verticals, talking about people in dietary, people in the lab, people in pharmacy, people in point of care, people in the outpatient surgery centers, et cetera, as you go down the line. And so how do you lower the cost of data integration into your BAS, BMS? CloudLink is the solution that is communicating data into the BAS, BMS. That can be accomplished through an API or can be accomplished with hardware. So we are completely vendor agnostic when it comes to the BAS, BMS. We're not asking anyone to choose sides or choose teams. We can integrate into any system. So you don't necessarily want non-facilities personnel to have access to the BMS, BAS. So providing them with a platform to help them manage their own departments, their own assets is a big assist. And so how do you bridge the gap with the need for regulatory compliance across that band away from the BAS, BMS, which is meant for building control? And that's what we're going to talk about and show you here today. So again, using healthcare as an example here, you have two sides of the house. You got the clinical side and you got the facility side. So how do you make 2 + 2 = 5 in there? Again, in this Venn diagram, Sonicu data collection plays in the middle of that. So we're out there collecting that data, sending it to the clinical side for people in the pharmacy, point of care, off-site clinics, infusion centers, OR, dietary, lab, etc., because they have to worry about the same things the facility side does, which is accreditation, but they also have to worry about Board of Pharmacy, the Department of Health, CAP in the lab for accreditation, CLIA, FDA, CMS, CDC, all those guidelines that they have to abide by. At the same time, we're feeding that same data. So the facilities team has a single pane of glass. They're seeing all the same data. There's no discrepancy between what the source of truth is. It gives ownership back to the departments. Now your pharmacy department can answer that first line of alarms and, oh, somebody just left the fridge open and somebody's not putting in a help ticket and running a service tech down to the pharmacy. All personnel on the same page. If the clinical team and the facilities team is seeing the same data, it just eliminates headbutting, if you will. It simplifies policy and procedure. If you got a policy and procedure for, say, something as simple as fridge monitoring across a whole system, it just improves quality overall in the end and eliminates loss. And increases operational efficiency. You get economies of scale by using a single platform to leverage this up. And oh yeah, it also helps the facilities team meet those same accreditation requirements.
So we have several examples to show you. If you came by the booth at AHR, we had these set up as well. The big thing we wanted to show in a real world example isn't hypothetical. These are live data connections. As you can see at the bottom part of the screen, you have all these Sonicu hardware that would be deployed out in the physical space. And then we're able to bring those in via Ethernet. We can go through an API source. We can go through the hardware side, which is a Sonicu asset. At the end of the day, whether it's through an API, BACnet IP, Modbus TCP, you name it, we have the ability to bridge that gap there. In this particular instance, we're leveraging the TASI 5, the TASI Box 500 lock as our means of communication. And the reason why that's preferred from our side is we have a dual SIM failover. So we have a Verizon and a T-Mobile in that application, as well as Wi-Fi and Ethernet when available. The reason why we say we can connect to any system is with the SonaCloud and the Sonicu solution, whether the customer allows you to ride on their network or you provide your own infrastructure, we have the means to get that data both to the cloud and back into a BMS in any instance there. The one area we wanted to point out is we had a lot of people just asking hypotheticals, what's this cost, what's that cost? The main thing we wanted to call out in today's presentation and kind of been our message to others is we don't know what the channel multipliers are. In most cases, there is a potential for a sales tax implication, which obviously varies by region. And of course, these are deployment. Are you retrofitting this into an existing system? Are you starting from scratch? There's a lot of unknowns there on deployment that we don't want to swag, but we feel like with our team at Sonicu, we can do whatever we can to look for the most efficient way to get this rolled out.
Next.
The next slide here, this is the latest Johnson Controls Facility Explorer IP solution. So we don't have a BMS in this application, but we still wanted to bring in data via the cloud link and actually see that in a live environment to have this particular air handler respond to that. So same thing, we're leveraging a piece of hardware with Sonicu. We've got the TASI 500, and then we just have our BACnet IP controllers on the JCI side. So no need for a BMS, but still able to fully visualize anything we need to out of the cloud. One of the things that comes up most frequently when we're doing building integration is what is the look and feel of a device if I bring it into the BMS world. In this particular case, we brought it in to the Niagara 4 framework. And as you can see, it comes through with the detail, obviously calling out the Sonicu hardware. And then the minute we have that in that environment, we can fully data normalize anything from the device name to the point name to make sure it's compliant with the BMS, as well as being able to get additional data down. So again, without the contractors or the integrators or the customers having to go hunt for registers or anything else, any data that is pointed from SonaCloud via the cloud link into a BMS, the description is going to fully spell out what those data points are. We felt that to be critical because that's a massive time savings for the integrator to be able to grab data immediately and see what's there. One major benefit from the cloud link solution is this is a secured means of communication. So we're not exposing all data from the cloud link of a site and allowing an integrator or somebody to just grab whatever they want. We want that to be very intentional for data they need to use and visualize on a single pane as we talked about. But in this particular example, you can see where we've got temperature, humidity, and pressure from OR. We've also got an example where we have a couple office temps with humidity. All those different variables can be brought down and realized into a live feed into the BMS environment, which you see on the bottom side there. If we weren't communicating, those would be illuminated and giving us a fault status. So now we've been able to data normalize, get it to where we want, and then take it to the next step. So in this application, as you can see here, this is a typical BMS environment here. This is at a lab, Jenison Laboratories. The reason why I show this slide with the BMS offline is I wanted everybody to see the Sonicu data still being online. So the BMS is just looking at zone temperatures and the VAVs that feed those zones. In this particular case, the incubator room is something that's required to be on regulatory compliance monitoring, but has nothing to do with the building automation system. However, with CloudLink, we can quickly bring that in, map it into the BMS and visualize it. Because that is a mission critical space, now you have the ability to leverage facilities as well to be a means of response. We talk about, cost avoidance, lowering the cost. This is a major get for being able to link your compliance data into the BMS by educating your customers to leverage their facilities people to be their first line of defense. By doing that, then that opens up y'all and Sonicu and others to be a means of remote support as a second leg. And then and only then are you actually asking for truck rolls to go out. With the way the market is, with the way some of the customers are, with their dollars. Unplanned truck rolls are the biggest torpedo to any infrastructure improvement. So part of this, the CloudLink solution is to reduce any unforeseen costs there and maximize those efforts. In this example, again, additional data that's required to be in compliance. VAV4 in the center of your screen would typically just have a temperature being monitored by the BMS. Well, in this case, we're looking at from the CloudLink, we're seeing temperature, humidity, pressure, and door status. Those are all wirelessly fed into the Sonicu solution, but then we've mapped those back via CloudLink into the BMS so they can visualize that. No different than you would have in a typical BMS environment. We can animate those on alarms so they would go into red if they're an alarm. The one thing we're a big proponent of is if the alarm is not cleared, we still have it flashing. Even though it's normal, we still want that flashing to indicate that there has been an incident or a situation that requires documentation. In the data compliance world, documentation is everything. So if we're resolving an issue, we can track that at both the BMS and the Sonicu levels and never lose our compliance in that application. On the right-hand side of the floor plan, you can see here where we had just a standard office VAV with one temperature. In this particular case, they built out an office within there, and they wanted to monitor both. Rather than going back to pipe and wire and trying to get everything bridged into the BMS, you can launch the additional sensors from Sonicu. Now we're seeing 2 different zone temps as well as room humidity. And then by bringing that back into the BMS, I can control that VAV off an averaging temp. But if I ever lose my CloudLink, I can immediately source the hardware that is still installed and integrated into the BMS in that zone. So the availability to introduce redundancy is also a major factor in the CloudLink solution.
So ultimately, the goal for Sonicu is one mission: safer facilities to deliver a peace of mind. It's about knowing that what you have in place is working and is doing everything that you need it to do, and you have the right stakeholders on your team involved seeing the same data. This is just a quick snapshot. Last year, 2021 actually, is where this was from. We had 16.3 trillion data points reported to the cloud. So we do use Amazon Web Services for our cloud hosting, so we can scale up as quickly as we need to anywhere across the country. This is just kind of a quick look at what the Sonicu hardware looks like. You see in the top center here, this is, we call it a wireless meter. You can plug just about anything into this. So it supports Wi-Fi, cellular, and Sonilink, meaning these guys reporting back to a hub that's plugged into Ethernet and with a cellular failover to get that data up to the cloud. There's 16 gig of onboard storage in each one of these. They have a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that's inside each one. So if there's a power outage, it's still going to take readings. It's not going to stop working. It's going to keep going. That 16 gig of onboard storage is overkill, really. That's probably at least 5 to 10 years worth of data storage just on board every single one of these units. What you're seeing here as well on the phone is our app. So we don't do any control. We don't want to do any control. And so that checks off a lot of the security boxes when you're talking about the higher security facilities. And it gives, again, those non-controls personnel access to their data via an app, gives them a live feed that they can answer alarms and see data in real time on their phone.
One thing I want to point out there, if the connection to the cloud is ever lost, that Duo continues to trend data. So the minute communication is restored, you're actively up to date with all your compliance trending. You don't lose data in the process there.
Right. So Sonicu has a list of sensors that we manufacture. Again, part of this is to make calibration easy. As you look down through these, you can see they all connect with what looks like a headphone jack. But at the same time, we are probe agnostic. So looking at things like a contact closure, there's 100 things you can connect into a contact closure to give you data that you need quickly and easily. Also, we connect to any 4 to 20 milliamp sensor off the shelf. So that would be for things that we don't manufacture. Things like current sensing, O2 sensing, light sensors. We've read just a tremendous amount of things where a customer may come along and say, hey, I have to meet this specification on the sensor. And then it's just, okay, go to your controls guy and buy what you need and plug it into the system.
What makes that so dynamic is the fact that it might be a sensor that isn't needed for data compliance, but with a Sonicu instance already in play, we can quickly deploy that asset or that device and bring it back to the BMS. So whether we're doing it for monitoring or control, even if it's not involved in the required compliance data monitoring, we can visualize it at the cloud, and we can also visualize it in the BMS. So if there is mission critical data, that cloud app is already there. So you're not stuck trying to build out a separate UI for somebody to see that. They can see that in a onboard live floor plan view, or just data only within the app.
Thank you, Sam. This is just a quick snapshot of what the data graphing looks like within our platform. As you can see, you can name these points whatever you want. This is actually showing pressure on a MERV8 filter. So looking at, rather than changing filters on a cadence, we're looking at changing filters when there need to be changed. And so there's cost savings that can be realized in applications like that. We are collecting what we call diagnostic data as well. We can tell you every single one of these, where the battery voltage is, if it's plugged in, what the signal strength is. And so being able to help those remotely through help desk and other things like that. We help you. We have our own help desk. These are just some of the names that we have out there that are current customers right now. Just to, it's funny that NASA's on here, but they actually reached out to us. So
To the moon.
Yep, there you go. And so ultimately, we want to help you improve the relationship that you have with your end customers and be that solution provider and grow that revenue to do everything that you need to do going forward and grow that revenue base from a service perspective on down the line. We want to be able to help you upsell your current BMS customers with a cloud-first, mobile-friendly solution. So there's plenty of BAS, BMS platforms that are out there that need upgrading, and it seems like everybody's in budget crunch mode right now.
Yeah.
And so having another arrow in the quiver to provide a solution is what we're trying to provide.
So Sonicu does full alarm annunciation with email, text, call, as well as if you have the app, there is push notifications. So you can have redundancy there. And just a quick example, we had a contractor stop by at AHR. He's got a BMS instance in several hospitals, but they had a few outpatient facilities where they just simply wanted to monitor a couple assets. If you look at costs for deployment, he couldn't get approval to drop in a Jace or drop in a BMS panel and do the pipe and wire to get those assets. But we were able to leverage the Sonicu technology to not only quickly deploy into those sites, but bring all that data back, because that particular client does use their facility services as their first means of support for anything that is under asset protection.
And that wraps it up. There's our contact information if anybody on the call wants to reach out to me or Sam. I'll be happy to follow up with you and answer any additional questions you have. I know, like me, I'll think of something 3 hours later, and man, I should have asked that. And so there it is. So give a quick write down, and we'll be happy to help going forward.
Well, that's awesome, guys, and I appreciate you guys presenting this. Right now, we'd like to open up this to the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for Sam or Mike, can you please go ahead and put it in the chat at the bottom right of your screen, and we'll go ahead and ask them any questions you would like to be asked. I do have a couple questions for you guys. First one is you guys talked about compliance, and your sensors are going to be installed into these hospitals, and to help them become compliant, do you guys have any kind of alerts that when they need to be recalibrated and stuff, so the building, the BMS system knows that that sensor needs to be recalibrated at whatever certain time to, to be in compliance?
100%.
Okay.
All the sensors that Sonicu manufactures, they all come with a 1 or a 2-year NIST calibration certificate. And as you saw, when those plug in with that digital connection, as soon as you plug them in, the meter that they're connected to reads the serial number off the probe and places the certificate of calibration onto the platform for you. So you don't have to worry about chasing down paper copies of your certificates. They're immediately online for download, email, printing, whatever you need to do. And as part of that, we have what we call your calibration info page. You bring up that page, it's going to show you every single sensor that's currently plugged in, what the calibration date was, what the expiration date is, as well as the ability to send you a notification if you have something 1 month or less before the calibration expires.
Awesome. That sounds great. Really keeps everybody up to date.
If I could quickly add to that, the one thing with that is, as long as that account is current with Sonicu, with the Cloud Link or with the SonicCloud application, all hardware is covered under warranty. And more importantly, as that NIST certification expires, we ship out a new sensor that's fully certified to replace that. So instead of putting it on a facilities team or third-party contractor to try to do field calibrations of any kind, if it falls into the NIST category, that is direct ship to them for a rapid deployment.
And that's a good example, Sam, thank you, of where we would be shipping that to our partners so they can make a site visit and kind of white glove service for their end customer to handle that for them.
Yeah, that sounds great. Do you guys have any idea what the growth potential is for this temperature and environmental monitoring?
Well, the market right now, I've seen a few different metrics for it, but I mean, the easiest way, the quickest way to think about it is how many hospitals are there in the country, and how many FDA regulated facilities, how many university research facilities are there? They are all wanting and needing this type of platform. And so, you know, we gave the metric earlier. We're only in 600 hospitals and labs across the country right now. So the market there is huge. It is huge. I still run into people every single week that we will do a discovery call and understand what they're doing and what their pain points are and things like that. And they're still doing manual clipboards. And you know, especially in the pharmacy world where the USP 797 and 800 regs are due to go into effect here November 1st. There is just a tremendous amount of work to do there as well, where they have to meet that compliance on the automated monitoring, going in and giving them access to the data they need for the reporting.
And so I see you guys have a mobile app, and obviously there's going to be an admin to it, and then people that will be using the mobile app. Is there control of what certain users can see and what certain users can't see within that app?
Absolutely. So it's a privilege-based platform. So you can create groups and assign people to those groups, and then assign those groups to different areas of the site. And so when they log in, they only see the things that they're allowed to see. And that way they can only be alarmed on the things that they can see as well. So it's a way to help divide up who gets the alarm notifications, who does not. And the alarms can be tiered. So you can have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And as far as the app, yeah, it's the same thing there. You have the same login that you would for the web interface into the app. And you know, so you could log in. We have customers that have facilities across the country, 200, 300 facilities across the country. They have one UI that they log into, and they can see everything from the same instance in real time.
What is mission critical to point out there is any alarm that is attempted to be resolved, whether it's in the app or the cloud at the compliance level, requires entry to describe what that resolution was, and that keeps the client in full compliance for all tracking of events within that matrix.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Harsh, did you see any questions in the chat?
Yeah, there are no questions so far. To all the attendees, if you have any questions, please type them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar on the bottom side. Yeah, our presenters are more than happy to answer your questions.
I think everybody's in shock on how cool this is.
We consider silent awesome.
I really enjoyed the presentation. Everything looks awesome.
Yeah, we tried to adhere to the KISS principle as much as possible when developing this, and so the ability to spin something up and have a solution completed for a client within a few days from the beginning of implementation to the end, I haven't seen much that can do that. So
No, and the one thing we did want to point out is we, as a team, we can facilitate, assisting anybody with integrating into a BMS. What this does is it's a door opener for those who aren't in certain applications or locations. But we're not, in this solution, we're not seeking or asking anybody at the customer level to do away with any of their service providers. In fact, what we're trying to do is leverage the technology to bring that means of first response in-house, and then leverage their service providers when truck rolls are needed. So if integration is the struggle point there, obviously everybody on the call today has some really good integrators they work with as well, but we can fully support that and keep that relationship intact with, HVAC controls, you name it, for that local client.
I would be remiss if I didn't remind everyone, we are looking for partners in the market right now. That's a major push for us here this year. And we know the need is out there. We get calls every day to that effect. And we want to be able to push those leads to partners that we have in their region. And so by all means, please let me know if you even have an inkling of interest, and we'll set up a separate call, go through a demo, understand what your needs are and the clients that you're serving, and see how we can help you.
Well, that sounds awesome. I still don't see any any questions in the chat box. So
Yeah, there's no questions. So yeah, I think we can end the webinar.
Yeah, so I'd like to just wrap it up and say thank you to Michael and Sam for a great presentation. And this presentation has been recorded, and there are handouts at the on the right at the panel. So please feel free to grab those handouts. And if you have any questions regarding Sonicu, and you can go ahead and email Michael or Sam. They put up their contact info on the presentation. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and give them a shout. And thank you for being on the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a great day.